Hello there, and welcome to The Spread, NESN's Football Picks podcast. I am NESN.com's Mike Cole, joined once again, and as always, by Ricky Doyle. Ricky, how are you on this fine October afternoon?
I am doing excellent, Mike. How are you doing?
I'm all right.
Okay.
Halloween, 2 weeks from today.
2 weeks.
We record these on Tuesday, so it is starting to look and feel like fall out there. I'm trying to really embrace it. Fall goes by too fast. It's fleeting. It's going to be snowy before you know the foliage season. I don't know if this is a global warming thing or what. It feels like foliage season goes by too quick. I'm really trying to make the most out of it.
I mean, fall in general, right, is like threading the needle. You get about what feels like 3 weeks of it now, especially when you're going from, what do we have, like, you had 6 last now you're going to get a few weeks of fall, and then it'll be shoveling snow before you know it, Mike.
That's fair. It's the circle of life, I suppose.
We had a big time. We're trying to figure out, we want to spruce it up for Halloween this year, but it was a little bit of a dilemma because we do record this on Tuesdays, and Halloween falls on a Tuesday. So we were like, do we do it next week? Do we get a full, going into Halloween weekend, I guess? Or do we wait to actual Halloween, in which case we would probably just look like bozos after the fact. People start watching.
See, this is an age-old dilemma, too. It's
November 2nd.
It comes down to, you go back to college. When you're in college, did you celebrate the weekend before? Did you celebrate the weekend after? You do both? Same thing, does your town do trick-or-treating on the night? Does it do on Saturday before, Saturday after? A lot of logistical decisions that have to be made, and we're kind of getting that firsthand here as we plan our stupid little podcast.
So I think we settled on the week before, but subject to change.
That's right.
If we don't feel like we're prepared enough,
which was probably the case.
Costumes aren't ready, because I know yours is gonna be handmade. I'm sure you're gonna be knitting.
I am, I'm a seamstress when it comes to that sort of stuff. So I'll be working by the midnight oil. So, we're gonna do NFL picks at some point here. Yep. People probably are logging on and saying, "Why are you guys talking about fall and Halloween?" I tell you what, one time to not talk about Halloween is probably 2 weeks before, but that's neither here nor there. If for some reason you enjoy the show, make sure you subscribe on Spotify.
First of all, God bless you.
Apple, wherever you do that. NESN.com/thespread. You can subscribe to our newsletter there. Go to NESNBets.com every Thursday for all of our picks on all 16 or however many games. There's a lot of buys this week, by the way. And also subscribe to NESN on YouTube, or go find there's a playlist for this podcast you can check if you're coming through YouTube. There's a link in the description. So that's that. Last week, a decent enough week, really. I mean, you're building a nice little lead against me. I went 6-8. You went 8-6, according to my calculations. So I continue to just chug along at about 500, and you continue to chug along just above 500. But you're really building a gap here. It's going to take a lot for me to catch up to you.
We're treading water. It's whatever.
That's a very strong endorsement of the entire process there.
I mean, that's par for the course. How did you do on your pick for the show last week?
All I got was my 1 unit play. I have mine up right here. I feel like I got borked. No, I didn't, because I had the Rams Cardinals over. And then I had Atlanta. I'm done on Atlanta. I feel like I'm chasing that one. The Falcon. Desmond Ridder stinks.
I told you. It's a couple weeks ago.
I meant to circle back on that on Sunday.
They're a team that is, they've become my stay away team.
So they have to. I can't believe we're doing Falcons talk, but I mean, get rid of Ridder and Arthur Smith at this point. Like, Arthur Smith came to Atlanta as like an offensive guru, and you have insane weapons.
Yeah.
They have a top 10 running back, a top 15 receiver, and a potentially top 10 tight end, and they still can't do anything with it. It's just ugly.
In watching them is not pretty either.
No,
it's just a grind. They're one of those teams where every first down, it's like there's maximum effort going.
It's weird though, because it feels like they're one of those teams that sportsbooks love. That it feels like the line always is. It's tempting. I looked at them again this week, on both sides of the coin. And I figured if I can't figure one of those out, I should probably stay away from that game. So I missed on that, and then I hit on my 1 unit play, which was Detroit, which actually did play out the way I kind of expected it to. Like the Lions, I might have been 1 week ahead of the Lions getting really legitimate steam as one of the NFL's 3 or 4 best teams. So how did you do on the show last week? I don't even remember.
I believe I got my 3 unit and whiffed on the other 2.
That's
whiffed on Cincinnati, Seattle over.
Sure. Like it was going to go
I felt real
way
good about
over,
that in the first quarter. And then things just kind of stalled out. Let's see. The one I did hit was Philly and the Jets under. And then I took Colts.
Oh, yeah. You kind of talked me into that one. I even used that for like my
out.
contest this week, and it just did not go well at all. So, any other, do we have, I mean, we can get into it as we go. Any real big picture takeaways?
I mean, we got no more undefeated teams.
That's true. Which is, I mean, I get, is that a thing?
Like, who had the better loss? What was the worst loss? The 49ers or the Eagles?
Worst loss.
Worse about
Eagles. So I thought the Eagles were good. I know that New York the Jets have been feisty. They've been, they have a good defense. But I actually thought that the Eagles were going to blow them out because the Jets had some injury issues, and especially in the secondary, Sauce Gardner didn't play. Like, it just still isn't quite there yet for the Eagles. Like, it hasn't clicked yet. I know that as a Jalen Hurts fantasy football owner, like, it's just, you're still waiting for that game where they drop 35 and look automatic offensively. Whereas the 49ers, major injury issues throughout that game. I understand that, you're not going up against the greatest of offenses on the other side, but the Cleveland defense is legit. In hindsight, probably a scheduled loss for the 49ers. They're kind of playing an early game,
right?
Banged up.
And they still should have won.
Yeah, that's true.
At the end, like that was the thing with that loss is that, like, so if you think that loss is worse, like, a lot of it stems from how injured they are coming out of that game. Whether McCaffrey misses time, Deebo Samuel, like that. That's sort of the concerning part of that. The loss itself, not so much. Like, I actually thought it was kind of encouraging what you saw in the last drive for Brock Purdy. Like, it was.
I mean, that's playing with like nothing out there,
and that was after, that's going up against an elite defense after not doing really much of anything all game, and you're still in that position to squeak one out at the end. Obviously, missed the kick, but that's sort of like I don't know. Like, I don't feel terrible about that loss from a 49ers standpoint aside.
This is a whatever stat, I think, in some cases, but you look at the Eagles, they're 5-1. They have a plus 31 point differential. Not very, doesn't jump off the page.
Yeah.
For comparison's sake, the 49ers plus 97. I mean, even the Lions plus 55. So it kind of speaks to so I guess, like, the Eagles it was inevitable more so than.
I almost feel like the Eagles, like, maybe the loss, and I'll get into this, but, like, maybe that loss is a good reset for them because it feels like it was trending in that direction for a few weeks. Like, they were obviously walking a tightrope, and now you just finally get the loss out of the way. It's like, all right, let's get back to what we were.
That's a fair point. So, I mean,
injuries though,
everybody's gonna lose
across the league too.
Yeah,
like a lot, like, I don't know how many of them are gonna be long-term issues, but just piling up. I think Justin Fields, Trevor Lawrence, Jimmy Garoppolo, Caffrey mentioned, Samuel mentioned, David Montgomery, Lane Johnson.
A lot.
Tyreek Hill was a little banged up there for a little bit, came back in. So that was, injuries were kind of the story.
Which is always fun. So, all right, let's get into our picks.
All right.
What's your 3-unit play?
3-unit play, I am going to take the Chargers traveling to Kansas City, face the Chiefs. I'm going to take under. I'm going to take under, I believe it's 48.5. We have it on the screen, 48.5.
That's according to the Nuts and Bets live odds page this morning. That could change it.
For me, this is like, I mean, we've talked about this in previous weeks too. How, like, that Kansas City, their identity is sort of changing in this new reality that they have, being more of a defensive team. 4-2 to the under this year with an average total differential of minus 9.6. That's the biggest negative difference in the NFL. They've only had 2 overs, like I just mentioned. Over 48.5 against Chicago. That being a game where Kansas City scored 41 points against one of the worst defenses in the NFL. The other being over 41 against the Jets in a game where it was just kind of weird. Zach Wilson actually looked pretty decent. Only San Fran has allowed fewer points per game than Kansas City. KC 9th in defensive DVOA, 7th in opponent yards per play. The Chiefs' offense still kind of doesn't look right. I don't know. Do they miss Eric Bieniemy? I don't know. Am I concerned about their long-term prospect this season? Not necessarily. I think when you have that quarterback and that coach, you're just inherently in a pretty good spot. But on a week-to-week basis, yeah, sure, it makes me think twice about one, laying a decent amount of points, or more so in this case, projecting out a total nearing 50. So I don't know. It's just like that offense, the pass catchers besides Travis Kelce haven't done much. It just feels like there's more checkdowns to running backs than anything.
Mm-hmm.
And on the flip side, the Chargers offense, probably the best that Kansas City has faced to this point. But I don't know, is Justin Herbert's finger still an issue? Like, he had some uncharacteristic throws on Monday night. Another thing about this game, just interested to see how like the rest discrepancy plays into it. I mean, you get Kansas City coming off extra rest, playing on Thursday night at home. Chargers just playing on Monday night, traveling from west to east. So maybe they're a little rusty. It just feels like a high total given where these two teams are at right now. I just don't know if the market is really adjusted to what the Chiefs are right now.
That makes sense. I actually, I think we will circle back to this game a little bit later in our program. I'm on a side in that game.
Are you? Okay.
Yes. So, okay, cool. Yeah, I think that's. I'm trying to think if that makes me feel better or worse about my pick that you're kind of seeing that way. I will say worse.
Well, don't let me. Yeah.
No, I'm not. I mean,
don't let me persuade.
The hay's in the barn, or out of the barn, in the barn, horse out of the barn.
Really good. It's every time we are in lockstep on something like I think we both felt pretty good about that Seattle-Cincinnati over last week. You know.
And I felt even better about it about 1:30 in the afternoon, but that's the way it goes. All right, for my 3-unit play, I feel like keep going back to the well here. It's right in my face, so I don't know if that's part of it. I'm taking Buffalo laying 8.5 on the road at New England against the Patriots. The last time the Patriots were a home underdog by more than 7 points, do you know when that was?
No.
2001 against the Rams when they played the Rams. I think it was either Sunday or Monday night game.
Oh yeah, that was they lost that game, but that was kind of the turning point.
Exactly.
That season,
yeah. So they covered that. The time before that was also 2001 against Indianapolis. They beat the Colts 44-13. Before that, you have to go back almost 30 years to 1993. So it's only happened 3 times in the last 30 years. But
it's like, I know you see like memes about this all the time, but like 30 years and is 1993. Like I think 30 years
that.
and I think like
I hear you.
The 70s.
Yep. I agree 1,000%. That's a tough one to swallow. So
but
yeah,
nevertheless,
that game I was playing Buffalo. I don't even, who knows? That was a little bit before my time. But this is by far, by DVOA, the biggest mismatch of the entire weekend. Just tells you how far the Patriots have fallen. And this is probably the best team the Patriots have faced in the last month, going back to from the Jets win on. I guess Dallas is maybe a coin flip, but other than that, it's been Dallas, New Orleans, and Vegas last week. They've lost those 3 games by an average of 24 points. And now here comes probably the best team that they've faced in this entire run. You look at the Bills, when this has been a more level playing field in recent years, have absolutely beaten the piss out of the Patriots. They're 7-1 in their last, 6-1 in their last 7 matchups. The wins in those games for the Bills have come by an average of 17 points. That includes 5 of the 6 wins being by double digits. And the one loss, obviously, was that fluky win game on Monday night in Buffalo, which I really don't put a whole lot of stock into. And I know our Patriots beat writer Dakota Randall, who has a source close to him who's a pretty big weather aficionado, thinks it's might be windy again this week, and we could have a redux of that game. I don't think it matters at all. There's just really no. I mean, there's not who the Patriots will win. I don't think there's any leveling of the playing field here. A lot of this comes down to the Patriots being extremely sloppy. They have the worst turnover differential in the entire NFL. They have scored 0 points off of turnovers that they've forced all year. They're the only team that hasn't scored a single point off of turnovers. Whereas you look at Buffalo, and this would actually kind of, if Buffalo was playing a team that is halfway buttoned up or decent, I might look at this as a flaw against them. They have scored more points off of turnovers than I think only 2 teams have scored more points off of turnovers than Buffalo. They just they're going to get turnovers and they're going to turn them into points. It's just no one forces turnovers at a higher rate than Buffalo. 20.3% of their drives. Defensively, that's going to be an issue. And also, like, how do they block the Bills? I don't know. Mac Jones, or Buffalo is the number one pressure rate in the NFL. Mac Jones passer rating under pressure 50.6. I couldn't find any actual stats on this. This is like I'm my own next gen stuff. But I feel like, and I found some anecdotal evidence to back this up. The Bills love to stunt with their front seven, or excuse me, their defensive line. And I saw there was a handful of film reviews, tweets. Dawson Knox back in July said that going up against the Buffalo defense in practice, they're doing a lot of disguising of coverages and stunting. So I'm just going to say that the Bills like to stunt. Sean McDermott loves to stunt. One of the major issues for the Patriots has been the interior offensive line, mostly Antonio Mafi. And like, so I was like sampling people who know and watch this closer than I do, their tweets. Chris Mason, he covers the Patriots. Alarming that the O-line still can't pick up basic stunts was a tweet. These are all tweets. Mike Hurley, friend of the program. Teams are going to continue attacking Mafi with stunts until he picks one up. Andrew Callahan. Patriots got beat by the same TT stunt on both of Mac's sacks, including the safeties. Taylor Kyles, Antonio Mafi's really had trouble versus stunts lately. QB and our receiver shuffling won't matter. Yeah, so like stunt 101 is coming. You know what I mean?
It's like an action film.
This is that is a good point. So I think there's going to be pressure up the middle all day, right in Mac's lap. He can't handle that. 8.5. It feels like it's a decent number. Like you get it now. This maybe gets up to like 10. Yeah. And that's we're not even talked about the Bills' offense. 3rd in DVOA, 3rd in EPA per play. Patriots' defense has been middle of the road, but the passing defense hasn't been as good. Obviously, when you lose your two best pass defenders, both up front and the back end with Judon and Gonzalez, that's going to hurt too. I think you can throw against them. I expect that to happen. Also feels like Sean McDermott is not the type of person who's going to take it easy on you when you're laying in the puddle of your own vomit. So I think he steps on their head. I also saw this too. This is my last thing. Pro Football Focus does this thing. I should have probably sent this to Chris, our producer. Put it on the screen. Like this XY graph of like special teams and turnover contributions, what they call it. The following chart shows how many net points each team has gained through turnovers and special teams. Like the Patriots are in the bottom left all by themselves, and it like, which means they've lost at 50 total points through turnovers, and they've lost 20 points and plus on special teams. They're so just poorly coached. I can't believe we're having this conversation.
Well, that's the thing, right? That's the biggest indictment on them this year is that it's how sloppy they've been, both with turnovers, penalties. They're a penalty on the first play of the game.
That was unbelievable.
Week. That's absurd.
Yeah.
But the thing is, it's like I know it's jarring to see how bad they are right now, but at the same time, this didn't happen overnight. And I think it just goes to show you how razor thin their margin for error was going back, 2-3 years now? Like, we sat here and multiple years in a row and said, this team isn't that good. Like, even going back to Brady's final year. Like, you look at how much they covered up with just being able to do those little things, like special teams or, not committing penalties, just being the more prepared team. Now that you don't have that working for you, you're seeing, this is what you are. This is what they've long been, but they've been able to cover it up by doing some other things well. Things that aren't necessarily sustainable.
I will say I kind of expected this number to be closer to 10. And if it gets up to 10, I don't love it nearly as much. I'm not sure why, but 8.5 feels very manageable for where the Bills have been. I know the Bills didn't look especially dominant on Sunday night, but I don't know. How do the Patriots score here? And then it's like, so if you bench Mac Jones,
that's the thing. Well,
then what? You're going to bring in Malik Cunningham? Or are you going to bring in Bailey Zappi? Like, it's just, we've been through it already.
Yeah. They're starting Mac Jones because they have to start Mac Jones. Right. There's just no other option right now.
Yep.
And I guess if I had a concern about Buffalo, it's that they've had some injuries pile up on the defensive side, but you expect that to be a factor this week? I mean, I
probably not. I mean, maybe. Well, I was even to say the Patriots have what was it? Looking it up.
Their entire roster was basically questionable going into that Vegas.
The same thing happened today. Today on Tuesday. I'm pulling it up. Dakota Randall just mentioned him. He was mentioned at practice. I'm pulling it up right now.
They had 17 players or something that were questionable last week.
8 players absent at practice. I know it's only Tuesday, but I was gonna say you can try to run on the Bills, I guess, if you want to. With the injuries that they've had. Absent from practice on Tuesday, Ramondre Stevenson, Trent Brown, Hunter Henry, Juju, And then that's it on the offense. So like those are four, at least three guys who are pretty important in the run game.
Yeah.
So I don't know what.
I mean, that's their offensive line blows.
It's so bad.
It blows both pass protection and run block.
Well, so like that's the other thing too. If you're gonna go out there and try to confuse them, I think it's gonna work. Like even it's just again we talked about the inability to pick up those stunts. Like that's all kind of like communication with the line of scrimmage and the quarterback, or the offensive line and the quarterback at the line of scrimmage. It just feels like they can't do that right now, and teams are just flummoxing them.
So I'm sure we'll be talking about Bill Belichick's demise probably on a weekly basis. I feel like this has become a weekly thing now.
Yeah.
That it certainly feels like we're nearing the end of this whole thing, right? Like it feels like they're gonna move on from him after 100%. This season. Like I don't know how you justify not doing so. So here's my question for you, because I heard you mentioning this earlier. If he was to leave New England, does he get another job? Does he go somewhere else, or do you think he just rides off the sunset, calls it a day, hangs out on his boat?
Yeah,
I guess the interesting thing too is if he does get another job, where is that?
So if he wants another job and makes it known that he wants another job, which is already happening, he'll get one, because like if you're the Bears, would you rather have Matt Eberflus or Bill Belichick for 3 years? If you're the Commanders and you're looking at a new ownership group trying to make a splash, would you rather keep running it back from Ron Rivera, who's probably going to lose his job anyway, or would you rather bring in Bill Belichick? And there was talk about Belichick with like Washington and Dallas a few years ago. It might have just been like a leverage play at the time, but that's not. There's if the Cowboys flame out, which is very much on the table with them being the Cowboys and Mike McCarthy coaching that team, that seems like maybe a spot if Belichick's willing to give up personnel rights. The Chargers.
That might actually work when you have a quarterback and you have some talent on that defense. Like that's a situation.
Yep.
It feels like that would sort of tailor-made for him.
Feels he's tight with the Joneses. Like I said, the Chargers could be an opportunity. If he wants to go out to the West Coast. Yeah, I think there would be maybe. I don't think the Giants would blow out Daboll, but that's maybe an option. Buffalo, the Bills, if they fall on their face, if they get knocked out in the divisional round, McDermott's not maybe safe. So there's an option there too. I think if he wanted to and he made it be known that he is open to coaching, he would have opportunities.
I think Brady brings him into Vegas.
There you go.
It sure would be the most fascinating.
Yeah.
I think I'm with you though. The Washington, Chicago, and Dallas were sort of the three that I had circled. Dallas obviously being the most intriguing for a number of reasons, but perhaps most of all being, how does that sit with Robert Kraft if he goes and links up with Jerry Jones in Dallas? Like that might actually be a sneaky good play on Belichick's part to sort of stick at the Kraft if this ends up being him being forced out and not the mutual parting of ways that they want to probably present this as. But I don't know. It's just something as you look forward, I'm like, well, obviously this has huge implications for the future of the Patriots, especially with the draft capital that they're probably going to have. But just seeing what his next.
Interesting. I found. I mean, offshore sportsbook, Belichick's 7th shortest odds. First coach fired. Yeah, I don't think that's going to happen. That would be wild.
Rivera's probably the favorite in the clubhouse.
Probably, I would imagine. It's not listed here, but all right. What's your 2-unit play?
2-unit play. I'm going to take the Eagles in this. This is the I would say the game of the week, Sunday Night Football. Eagles traveling to Miami to face the Dolphins. Eagles laying 2 points. Actually, no, they're not traveling. Home.
That's fair. Yeah, same difference.
This to me feels very similar to when the Dolphins traveled to Buffalo in Week 4. A game that they obviously lost by 28 points, which they were 3-point underdogs. In that case, Miami was coming off that huge home win over Denver when they hung 70 points on them. Denver, obviously, probably the worst defense in the NFL. Now Miami's coming off a huge home win over Carolina, probably bottom 3 defense in the NFL. I know Philly has some issues in their secondary, but by and large, it's still a good defense. And I think for me with Miami, it's just like, and we've touched on this before, like just still kind of curious to see how that offense operates when everything isn't just clicking. Like it feels very much like there has to be that synergy. I know when that game against Buffalo, they did have some communication and alignment issues. That that could be maybe the crowd might have been a factor there, in which case that could be the case again this week in Philadelphia. So I just think that Philly defense is going to be a big test for the Miami offense. I know the pass rush hasn't been quite what it's been in the past, and maybe some of that's negated by just Miami's offensive approach, getting rid of the football. Philly very good against the run, second in run defense per Pro Football Focus. Third in rush EPA on first and second downs. So I could see some long third downs that Miami isn't quite able to convert. I also just like the opportunity to buy low on Philly's offense. You mentioned this earlier, like it hasn't looked right yet, but Miami's defense also leaves a little bit to be desired. They're 26th in early down rush EPA, 27th in defensive DVOA overall. The only teams they're ahead of in terms of defensive DVOA, Giants, Bears, Panthers, Cardinals, Broncos. Those teams are combined 4 and 26.
Which is insane, too, because they haven't really faced anybody.
They've had the softest schedule in the NFL.
That's what I'm looking at. Again, from the same story, the Pro Football Focus story, they rank, they show you, the matrices of quadrants and stuff. And, like, there's the bottom left quadrant has faced bad offenses and bad defenses. And, like, the Dolphins is way down there, like, meaning they faced both horrible offenses and horrible defenses.
Quadrants and stuff could be a nice little, like, tagline for us. Remember the guy, the Chevy guy in the World Series a few years ago? That's got technology.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm just looking at some quadrants and stuff.
I will say to that point, though, this is the only thing I would push back on, is the Eagles, judging by this, have played just horrendous offenses this year. This is clearly by far the best offense they faced all year. But, like, I don't know, I was leaning, this is a tough one. This is a tough game to kind of handicap, and kudos to you for making a 2-unit play, which indicates some confidence. But, like, we've seen it with Miami. If you can get pressure on them, it completely throws their offense out of whack. And if there's one thing that the Eagles are going to do really well, or should be able to do really well defensively, it's rush the passer. So I do think that's how this is no secret, but that's when it comes to timing offenses. We saw it for years with the Patriots and Brady. If you can pressure him up the middle, completely throws off his game. I do kind of think if you just are able to knock the Dolphins off their spot here and there, whether it's on the outside or with pass rushing up the middle, like, you're going to have some success.
I know the total is pretty high for this game. What is it, like 52 or something?
Which is all just like a leverage against.
And honestly, I would probably lean over. Like, I could see this turning into the shootout we sort of all expect to be. I mean, Miami has been. You know what? I would lean over, and I would do so because I just have faith in Philly's offense to finally look a little bit more like the Philly offense. Like, it feels like, from a matchup standpoint, a good match for them.
Wind's going to be blowing Sunday night, so something to keep in mind, too.
We'll ask Dakota Randall to check his source. I don't know. Does his weather connections extend beyond New England? I guess this will be the
That's
test.
A good question. So. All right, my 2-unit play.
Good game, though.
It is, yeah, Sunday night, too. I might have to actually stay up for that one. I'm taking the under in the Steelers-Rams game. This game's in Los Angeles. This is mostly a fate of Pittsburgh's offense, which has scored fewer than 20 points in 3 of its 5 games. And then the 2 games it scored more than 20 points, it forced a combined 7 turnovers. The Rams this season have just 6 turnovers through their first quarter of the season or third of the season. And they've turned it over just 3 times in their last 3 games total. So that's not, if you're not giving the Steelers a short field, you're probably doing a good job of holding the Steelers offense down. If you look at what Steelers offensively are going to try to do or can't do or whatever, their running game has been pretty much non-existent. Only 4 teams have a less efficient rushing attack so far this season than the Steelers. You can run on the Rams, and so maybe that gets them right, but you could also look at the other side of the coin is they just can't take advantage of. The Rams allowed at least 130 rushing yards in 4 of 6 games, including 141 over the last 3 weeks per game. But again, it's just like the Steelers have not been able to show that they can run the ball efficiently at any point this season, so that's an issue. You look at the Rams offense. I'm still not totally sold on the Rams offense. I know the personnel is there, the coaching obviously is there. I'm just still not totally buying it. Now you look they've got an injury. Kyren Williams expecting to miss a game with an ankle injury. He's got 5 yards per touch this year. That ranks, I think, 12th among qualified running backs. He's been a nice surprise for them. You also look at, too, what the Steelers like to do defensively. They like to blitz. They're 7th in the league with a 36% blitz rate. Matthew Stafford hasn't been very good. Ranks 30th of 33 qualified quarterbacks in adjusted completion percentage against the blitz. 43, we're getting under the key number of 42 here. I just think that this is a 22-14, 21-14, 2017 type of game here. So I will take the under 43 in the Rams-Steelers game.
I was thinking this last week. The Rams underrated? Like, I know you're not buying into them, and I don't think I'm necessarily buying into them either. Like, I don't know how much noise they can make this year, but like,
I think they're properly rated as a team that's in the middle of the league.
But I feel like coming into this year, there was some talk that maybe, they may be competing for a top 5 pick or something.
I'm not sure. I mean, there's probably tape that I was one of the people saying that. I'm not sure I totally buy that. I just thought they have they've spent the last almost decade now trading away first-round picks, trading away high draft capital. If everything goes right for them, they're going to contend.
Yeah.
But you start getting injuries, that's where like the depth really comes back to bite in the ass. Is like when they've traded away a ton of draft picks, they're just not deep. So I think they've been able to thread that needle for the most part so far, even without Cooper Kupp for most of the season. But yeah, I think they're kind of always like walking that tightrope where this thing could go south quickly.
They're a team, they're going to be tough to play against. Probably more so than maybe we give them credit for at the beginning of the year. So I'm just looking at like they lost by 7 to the 49ers, obviously undefeated until last week. 3 to the Bengals in the Monday night game that was just kind of a grind on the road. 9 to the Eagles, another team that was undefeated with Super Bowl aspirations. They're decent.
I think they're just like not as exciting or flashy as they used to be, so they kind of fly under the radar.
They have enough, to your point, like enough top tier talent to get them by.
Yeah.
And then once the depth.
And like I do wonder, do you have their schedule by any chance?
Yeah.
Have they played a good offense? Like it feels like they haven't run into a team where they've had to go, coincidentally, like where they haven't had to go shot for shot. I could be wrong, but
well, I mean they blew out the Seahawks in week 1.
Yeah.
30
which again, like not to discount them, but you get week 1, it's like this is the best game plan you have all year.
They lost 30 to 23.
Which a game that wasn't as close as that final score. But
yeah, they just been kind of all over the place. I guess.
I'm looking at it now too.
You don't really know what you're getting,
and it's going to continue that way too. Pittsburgh, Dallas, Green Bay, Seattle, Arizona, Cleveland. They're an interesting team. So, but I don't want to watch them at the same time either.
Yeah, no.
They're interesting to talk about on Tuesday, but I'm not watching them.
I think I just was thinking of that last week because at first glance, that number where they were laying 7 against Arizona.
Yeah.
And it just felt high.
Yeah.
And then the more you peeled it back.
I took the Cardinals kind of just almost.
Yeah, just blindly.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Oh. What's your 1 unit play?
1 unit, I'm going to go under in Browns Colts. Under 39, I believe. Yep. I mean, look, Cleveland, probably the best defense in the NFL. Like, I think what we saw on Sunday against San Francisco highlighted that. We've had 2 Cleveland overs this year. Week 2 at Pittsburgh, that obviously had, the Steelers scoring 2 defensive touchdowns. And that actually, coincidentally, this past week, when they landed on 36, a total of 35.5. So, I know. I look at this and obviously 2 murky quarterback situations. Gonna have Gardner Minshew on the Indianapolis side, and who knows what the Deshaun Watson situation looks like for Cleveland. That's starting to feel weird to me. I don't know what's going on with that, but I also don't know if it really matters for the purposes of this game.
Probably not.
Like I'm looking at it. I'm kind of looking at that. Cleveland's 27-3 win over Tennessee in week 3 is like the prototype there. Maybe a game like it could be a little more competitive. So maybe you get like a 21-17, you sneak under. But yeah, this is just 2 teams that I don't feel great about either offense, but love that Cleveland defense. So this could be, Gardner Minshew, 4 turnovers against Jacksonville. That's the thing about that game too, that, the Colts just surrendered 37 points, much to my dismay last week. But Jacksonville only averaged 3.8 yards per play. Like, they were just turning the ball over left and right. Cleveland, number 1 in time of possession. Like, this could be a game that just turns into a grind, a real rock fight. Yeah, under 39. The low total, but I'll roll with it.
Very much a game I will not be watching.
Yeah, this could be a...
So, yeah. I'm out on that.
Which is why I'm going 1 unit with this. And I can't devote any more to that.
Yeah, that's fair.
I already devoted enough brain power to it.
Okay. My 1 unit play, I'm going back to the Chargers Chiefs game we talked about earlier. I'm taking the points. Give me the 5.5 with the Chargers at Kansas City. There's probably some overlap. I've already forgotten what your points were, so I apologize in advance. I just look
at too compelling, I'm sure.
The Chiefs schedule has not been very impressive. They've played. I guess technically, if you want to go back and slot it in, like they played by DVOA the number 2 team, Detroit. They lost that game. They played the number 8 team, Jacksonville, which I guess Jacksonville it feels like they're in this boat every year where the numbers or the advanced analytics say that they're better than they are. I don't love the Jags, but they're a top 10 DVOA team, so I'm throwing that out. And that game was a rock fight as well. After that, 19th, 29th, 16th, 30th by DVOA, and in that, within that includes 1-score wins against Minnesota and the Jets, 2 teams nobody really thinks are that good. The last 5 meetings between these 2 teams, Chiefs by 3, Chiefs by 3, Chiefs by 6, Chargers by 6, Chargers blowout win. You look at what the Chargers have done this year. They've played 5 games. All have been decided by 7 points or less. They just played close games. I guess that's just kind of what they are. You look at 2 of the Chiefs. I saw this, I think it was ESPN Power Rankings pointed this out. 5 of their they play 5 teams in the top 7 in scoring coming up, starting with the Chargers. Chargers offense that they haven't really faced, averaging 5.6 yards per play. There are some question marks about whether the Chargers can stand up against that pass rush. Herbert looks like a completely different guy when he's got people in his face, not unlike most players, but you give him a little bit of time to throw. That was the thing. I went back and watched. It was funny. I was telling people about this earlier. I didn't watch that Monday night game. So I went back and watched the 12-minute YouTube clips. And if you just watch nothing but YouTube clips, Justin Herbert looks fantastic. Like when you give him time to throw, he's throwing flick of the wrist, 40 yards downfield on a dime. Can you block it up a little bit better and give him a chance? I know he missed some big throws. You mentioned that as well. That Keenan Allen one he's going to see in his sleep. But I just think that, again, they bring their best when they play the Chiefs. And I also wonder, too, if everybody is going to kind of overrate the rest thing. Maybe we already have with that number at 5.5, where I think there are, it's a fair point to make that Kansas City played Thursday, the Chargers played Monday. So maybe I'm getting a little inflation going the other way. I don't know. That's just, It's just, again, it just feels like every time these 2 teams play, it's pretty close. It's a 1-score game. And if that's going to be the case, I'll try to get just under that touchdown here with a 5.5.
I feel like the Chargers play everybody close, right?
This is what I just said.
Yeah, for the past 5 years. Yeah. It's just it's all comes down to their inability to actually win those games. But yeah, if you're going to get
there's some big injuries. Just 5.5 feels like a lot here.
Yeah, maybe it is maybe the rest thing is really baked into that number. KC's a team that this year I don't like.
Well, so that's the other thing too. I didn't even get into that. You talked about the offense doesn't look right, the lack of weapons. The defense has been elite, but again, against whom?
They're a team that I'll very much look back when you're looking at a 2.5 or 3. Once you start getting beyond that,
which I don't know how often.
Yeah, well, I'm thinking of toss-up games, it's Buffalo or whatever. Yeah. Once you start getting closer to a touchdown, a divisional game,
That's fair. Yeah.
I don't know, man. Those 2 teams on Monday night, Dallas and the Chargers, is there anything you take away from that game? I wanted to see something from one of those teams, I guess.
They're
can you show me that you're a potential Super Bowl team? And I came away from that just I
made this point to resident NESN.com Cowboys fan Sean McGuire. I think the Chargers are Cowboys Junior. They're kind of on that same they're kind of on that same trajectory. In a few years, maybe after this year, they're gonna fire Staley, who's the equivalent of Jason Garrett. and they're going to bring in
Mike McCarthy.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, right. Yeah. Like, what's the
Belichick?
Belichick would kind of throw off this comparison a little bit, but I'm trying to think of like middle of the road, like Jeff Fisher, a step above Jeff Fisher, like that kind of guy. You know what I mean? Like, we need to bring in an adult here.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then they're going to continue they'll get incrementally better, but then flounder in the playoffs, just kind of like the Cowboys have. So, yeah, that AFC's version of the Cowboys, if you want to call it that. So it makes sense that game was rife with dumb errors, quarterback play that looks fantastic at times, garbage at others.
That's the thing too. Like,
and then it came down to the wire.
Like, when we're sitting here recording this in 5 years, what is Justin Herbert's career look like? You know, like,
yeah,
is he gonna get a ring, or is this gonna be?
Is there like
just a kind of an organizational?
I think he's
that's gonna hold him back.
I also mentioned this to Sean. I think and this is gonna sound far more complimentary than I mean it, and he's on like a Rodgers track, right? Like maybe a diet version of Aaron Rodgers, where it's like when you put legitimate talent around him, he's going to lead that talent to success, but he's probably not gonna. That seems unfair to Aaron Rodgers now that I'm saying it out loud. Yeah. But like, who's in between?
Yeah.
But like calling him like Mac Jones.
Tony Romo.
Yeah, I guess that's probably
like somebody like that.
That's probably a more fair description. I mean, the fact that he's like a top half of the first round guy too. I don't know if there's somebody in there as well. Like the crazy thing is, if you went back 3 years or whatever it was, the conversation, and this kind of ties into some other stuff that we've talked about today. The conversation about that quarterback class is like the Dolphins. What do you could have had Herbert and they took Tua. Yeah. And now it's like, I don't know. Do you want to have that conversation? Who would you rather have? I think that's unfair to Herbert though.
Yeah, I mean that's a tough one because
like you put Herbert in Miami,
such a perfect fit.
Yeah.
With Miami, like I
don't think
it worked out well for both teams.
Yeah, I don't think it would work as well with Herbert in Miami.
No, I don't think so either. So in that sense, I think both teams got the right guy.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, but it's a conversation that, like I said, we're sitting here 5-6 years from now, and it's like, who knows? Maybe Miami's going to their third Super Bowl or something.
Yeah, right.
The conversation's a little bit different.
Yeah, and Justin Herbert's playing for, the Patriots.
Tiddlywinks, the American flag football league.
Well, there you go. Yeah. So, yeah. All right. So that's that. Do we have anything? Oh, you want to do? So we're gonna, we're not doing show and tell today. We don't have any football cards. We're kind of combining the two. I think here. So I went to Target today. These cost $6, by the way. I'm gonna throw it. They're called Teeny Mates. Teeny Mates. They're just collectible NFL figures. So we're gonna do the same thing. We're gonna open these up. Yeah. Feels like there's one in here too. Two.
So what is it? A keychain?
I have no idea. 2 figures, 2 puzzle pieces, and 1 collector sheet each pack.
Yeah. I saw
this is going.
Our quarterback, Ben Watanabe.
Did he buy? This is the same thing.
He had I think it was that. But anyways, he had one last week in the office. And I said, you know what? This would be nice if we could incorporate this into the show somehow and open our own Teeny Mate.
All right, so good start.
He got a good one, though. Oh, no, that's different than what he got.
These are very teeny.
Yeah, no, his was like more of like a keychain thing. And actually, you know what? He got, is there something on the back? Is there a glow?
We're getting there, yeah.
Yeah, his was different.
So,
you got a very rare one, I will say.
This feels like a collector's
$50 on eBay.
Item. Matthew Judon in the old school Patriots garb. I was actually going to give these to my son, but this feels way too small for a toddler to play with.
Yeah, you'll be giving him the high one.
Yeah, so there's Matthew Judon in the old school Patriots.
That's actually kind of cool.
And then, well, Jesus Christ, this didn't work. The other one, I don't know why this one's wrapped, but if I open this, I'm going to ruin the value of it. It's Sauce Gardner. And like the Jets.
So 2 guys that are
Color Rush, yeah.
Perfect.
All right.
So it goes back to injuries piling up. Injuries piling up. What's the most impactful injury to have happened so far?
Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, if we go back. Yeah, I mean, sure.
I
was thinking about this past week.
Oh, this past week? Christian McCaffrey.
Yeah, gotta be right.
Yeah, of course. So, okay, so we got 2 figures. Now we have 2 puzzle pieces.
Okay.
What is it? I almost really let one rip there. What do you do with 2 puzzle pieces? Anyway, so
These things are very small. What's the
Are you supposed
target
to buy
audience? What is the target audience
Yeah, no
of these things?
Jesus Christ. I've got a puzzle piece of the Jaguars on it and a puzzle piece of the Cowboys on it. And like they don't go to anything. I'm dropping them. They're purple on the back. I don't know. Jags, Cowboys, we already talked about them too.
Yeah, that's the thing. We cover so much in the course of our picks that we get to the end of this thing and it's like we're just rehashing information.
And this is just a checklist? What is this? A collector sheet.
So last week when he got him, he got I believe it was a Justin Jefferson glow in the dark little figure. And I think that's a good jumping off point of what that team looked like without Justin Jefferson. Vikings.
Bad.
Offense does not look great. That could be a long-term problem. That could be an impactful injury. You want to talk impactful injuries.
Yeah, but I thought we were talking about injuries from other than this week, and that was 2 weeks ago.
That's true. There's a certain statute of limits.
Oh, okay. So I got the Sauce Gardner alternate uniform. Matthew Judon classic
Nick Chubb.
uniform.
I see Nick Chubb on the back. That's another injury. You want to talk about him?
There you go. Yeah.
This thing's cursed.
Jair Alexander.
I know the Madden curse gets all the love, but we got to start looking at this a little more.
Yeah, we did not hit on the neon glow in the dark referee. Is that maybe what's it, the referee that Ben got? I'll get the bigger pack next week. This is tough. So these are all alternate, all alternates. So got that. Awesome alternates, as it's called.
Cool.
There's a Micah Parsons in a classic uniform that's a 164 pack. You're chasing the metallic gold Josh Allen, 1 in 512 packs. So there you go. Josh Allen. Okay. So the puzzle pieces creates a play set on the back. You can do a football field play set. You can play the little teeny guys, or you can do a poster. That's a lot of puzzle pieces. 35 puzzle pieces. This was $6.
Wow.
Save the kids. Ripping them off. God.
First thing.
All right. Anything else?
No. I like the little Judon guy though.
That's cool. Yeah.
Nice. So. Maybe we can put him up in the studio here somewhere.
Yeah, there you go. Oh, well, I gotta check eBay first to see if those are going for hundreds of dollars. So, anything else, Ricky?
No.
All right.
Nope.
Cool. Thanks for joining us on the spread. That's Ricky. I'm Mike. We'll see you again next week. Goodbye.